Wheaton Christian Center. I grew up in a home where my mother often read me Bible stories. So by God's grace, He gave me a smidgen of her talent. And for the past several years, we have celebrated beginning Christmas Day, reading an inspiring Christmas story enjoyed by both adults and children alike.
welcome my guests. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Praise the Lord. All right, am I on? All right. Well, thank you so very much for coming again. All right. I want to welcome all of you all here this morning. Praise the Lord for this wonderful day that God has given to us. Christmas morning, my favorite day of the year. Amen. So, celebrating the birth of our Lord, and so we're going to let them clean up a little bit back here, and then we're going to start our story. So again, welcome to all of you all. Thank you for coming this morning. It's going to be a great day, a marvelous day the Lord has made. We're going to, I guess the stream is going to hold on and put a little sign up there. We're going to be right back, but we'll be up and going in about another 2 minutes. All right? Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Are we ready? All right, well, praise the Lord. Today's title is, the story is The Miracle Christmas Cloth. Amen. The scene begins in heaven with three angels, Michael, Noam, and Etan, sitting around a conference table. With eyes ablaze but completely calm, Michael, the lead angel, blurts out, "Angels, we have been given an assignment by the Majestic One. The location is a little town called Spielberg, just south and west of Vienna, in the country of Austria. The date is September 1938, and the Nazis are rapidly approaching from the west. Their blitzkrieg is leaving destruction in its wake. There is little human resistance, and many nationals are surrendering without a fight. Almost as many are herded off to concentration camps. Among them are many Jews. Michael, did the Majestic One instruct us to stop them?" Noam excitedly interrupts, while simultaneously standing to his feet and quickly drawing his sword from his sheath. He then slowly raises it above his head and declares, "I'm ready to fight now. Let's go." Noam slaps his wings on the floor, turns and walks briskly toward the door. "We must hurry before too many perish," he continues. They can't do it. They can't do that to all those innocents, and especially his chosen ones, the Jews. I will not allow it," Noam's voice rising with every word. "Wait just a minute, Noam," Michael interjects, holding out his hand for Noam to slow down. "Let's not be too impulsive here. Try to remain calm. I know your zeal, which is why you were chosen. However, that is not exactly what the Majestic One has tasked us with," Michael continues. "But Michael," Etan protests, "we must do something quickly, or many humans will die. Noam and Etan, please stop interrupting and listen, Mikhail retorts. The Majestic One has instructed us with a great task, and we must explore it now. Maybe you have not heard of it, but it's called the Joseph Wonder. The Joseph what? Etan and Noam immediately respond, looking at each other and then back at Mikhail. What's that? The two angels ask simultaneously. Before Mikhail can respond, Noam erupts again. But what about all those people you just showed us who are being overwhelmed? Noam asks angrily. It will only take me a couple of days. Have you forgotten? I am a descendant of Michael, the war angel. Noam's voice changes to speak with authority. Okay, special angels, please allow me to explain, Mikhail retorts, holding out his large hands, and snapping his wings to secure the attention of his two new proteges. Both of you just sit back down and listen for a minute. You are both so full of zeal for righteousness, and that is good. I'm really impressed, and I repeat, that's why you were chosen. It's refreshing to see your deep desire to do the bidding of the Most High. However, I need to remind you of a couple of things. First, the Majestic One is good, and therefore he is never late. Second, he often reveals himself using miracles, which work two ways, either instantaneously or over earth time. Both types of wonders reveal his goodness to those who are good and to those who are evil. What then is a Joseph wonder? I'm sure you are asking yourself right about now. If you remember, Joseph, the son of Jacob, was sold into slavery by his envious brothers and was then imprisoned for 13 years for a crime he didn't commit. The difficult question is, where was God over all those many years? I'll tell you where. Mikhail answers his own question. He was building a miracle so incredible, so great, and so undeniable that it would impact the entire known world to this day. Remember, not even Joseph fully understood at the time all the things happening to him, yet he told his brothers, as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring about this present result, to preserve many people alive. Angels of the Most High, please listen carefully, Mikhail continues. Millions of people were saved from starvation in Joseph's day, which is why it's called the Joseph Wonder. Here's the key. The Majestic One worked this miracle over time, and so also we have been tasked with doing a miracle over time with an earth family. Wow, Etan gasps. Being new to all this stuff, I've never heard of the Joseph Wonder, but I guess I'm ready. So what do we do next? Etan asks innocently. Pointing down to earth, Mikhail declares, well, do you see that little Austrian family of 3 in that tiny house in Spielberg? Yes, the two angels answer simultaneously. What about them? The scene switches back to earth where the little family is being interrogated. Come out of your house immediately, the first of 4 German soldiers sternly commands. 2 of the German soldiers holding rifles wave the family out of their house. They're greeted roughly by 2 remaining soldiers who are pointing German Lugers at them. Get against the wall, the second soldier orders, pinning Matteo, who is the father, against the wall with the Luger in his stomach. The Nazi then moves the Luger up along his chest to his forehead. But what did we do, Emma? What did we do? Emma, who is the mother, interrupts as she pulls her 10-year-old daughter Sophie to her chest. Trembling from fear, little Sophie buries her face in her mother's breasts, hugging her tightly. Silence! The first soldier demands, smashing Emma's left shoulder against the wall. Emma holds her daughter with one hand and reaches out for her husband, Matteo, with the other. She grabs his clothing as she watches in horror as the soldier pins Matteo's head back against the wall with his Luger. Please, 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 Emma cries. Please don't hurt him. She pulls herself closer to Matteo, sandwiching Sophie between her and her husband. I said, silence, verhatati fra. The soldier shouts again. We have reason to believe you have violated Nazi policy by harboring Juden in your house. The lead soldier motions to his two subordinates to enter the home. Immediately, Mateo and Emma can hear the soldiers ransacking their house. We don't even know any Jews, Mateo responds. Silence, you enemy of the people. We know you are guilty, the captain retorts, again jamming Mateo's head back against the wall with his Luger. Mama, what are Jews? Sophie asked innocently, lifting her head from her mother's breast. Silence, Fräulein, before I shoot your parents, the soldier shouts at little Sophie. 20 minutes pass and the soldiers come out only with a multicolored cloth. By this time, a small crowd of neighbors has gathered around to view the scene. This is all we can find, Herr Kapitan. The soldier lifts up the multicolored cloth to show the German officer. It looks Juden to me, the soldier retorts. This is all the evidence we need. Take them away. The soldiers begin to jerk the family to a waiting truck filled with other Austrians and Jews. It's not Austrian, one of the neighbors in the crowd shouts. I made it for them myself. Arrest that man, the captain shouts. You are a Juden lover. Two soldiers quickly pass through the crowd and grab the one who dared speak up. The crowd gasps in horror. The Nazis drag the neighbor and the family of three and shove them into the already crowded truck and speed off. 3 hours later, after many more accused are packed into the truck, it arrives at the concentration camp. The doors are flung open, and the accused are dragged off the truck and shoved into a long line of people. In total horror, the Austrian family are desperately clinging to one another. Finally, the three stand before a man in a white doctor's coat sitting down in a metal chair. The man raises his head, looks the family up and down, and then points to Mateo. Abraham, you go down that line. And then he points to Emma and Sophie. You two down that line, pointing to an entirely different direction. Emma and Sophie scream as she grabs onto her husband with all her might. One of the soldiers nearby hits Mateo in the back of his head with the butt of a rifle. As Mateo falls to the ground half unconscious, the other two soldiers each grab a foot and begin ripping Mateo from Emma's and Sophie's grip. Emma and Sophie fall to their knees, holding on to Mateo as they are dragged along, screaming and crying. Two more soldiers appear. One grabs Emma by her hair, jerking her head backward. Mateo has no more strength to hold on to his wife and daughter and succumbs to the pain of the rifle butt. Emma and Sophie each grab a handful of each other's clothes as the guards jerk them apart. Suddenly, one guard reaches down and grabs Sophie, picks up Sophie and carries her under his large, burly arm, like a sack of potatoes in a different direction from her mother. Their screams intensify. As the soldier drags Emma, she reaches up and grabs the soldier's fist, trying to ease the pain of being dragged by her hair. Please, please, don't take my Sophie from me, Emma begs. The German soldier kicks her in the stomach while continuing to drag her. Quiet, Juden lover, the soldier shouts. Every 10 to 12, 15 yards or so, the soldier stops, kicks Emma, trying to keep her from screaming. Finally, another soldier arrives, and together they drag her into a yard that is fenced off where they throw her into a muddy puddle of water. Emma tries to grab the gate before it shuts, but it's too late. She reaches through the fence and grabs the soldier's clothing, pleading with him to return her daughter. The soldier looks down at her hand, then grabs her head and slams it against the pole of the fence. Emma tumbles to the ground in a heap. Do you dare touch a soldier of Germany, Juden lover? He snares. Emma draws her feet to her chest weeping and crying out to God for help. "Oh God, please God, this cannot be happening," Emma cries. "Please, I beg you, oh God, help me." Over time, Emma was shipped around to several concentration camps, finally landing at Ravensbrück female concentration camp in Germany. After 7 long years, she was finally liberated by the Soviet Union. During that time, Emma continually cried out to God, but after 3 years of receiving what she considered to be no response, she gave up. After liberation, Emma returned to her hometown in Spielberg, Austria, despondent, depressed, and without hope. Her entire town was in rubble, and she had no idea even where her old street was located, let alone her old house. Having no place to lay her head, Emma began to live in a homeless shelter. She tried getting different jobs, cleaning houses, but consistent work was rare. Although she no longer believed in God, every night she cried herself to sleep, calling on him to help her. She often blamed God for killing her husband and daughter, and would scream out in the middle of the night, cursing him. At first, the other people in the shelter were shocked and would scream back at her. But over time, they grew accustomed to her nearly nightly outbursts and began ignoring her. 10 years pass, and Emma still is hopelessly laying in each night in the shelter. One night, while everyone was asleep, the shelter catches fire. As everyone ran out, Emma was the last one to awake. By that time, she could barely breathe. She rolls off her cot and begins to crawl along the floor to the door, opening to the hallway, which leads to another door out of the building. Because the smoke was so thick, she could not see and could crawl no more. She fell to her chest, acknowledging her time had come. As she lay on the floor, she mustered enough strength to lift her head one more time. "So, God, you finally abandoned me one last time." Her head then falls and lays on the hot tile, her body without strength, her life quickly ebbing away as she blacks out. Outside of the shelter, everyone begins counting. One person is missing. "Emma is missing! Emma is missing!" several people shout while pointing at the building door. The townspeople have already formed a water line and were desperately throwing water on the building. But it is too late. The flames have engulfed the dry wood. The only bright spot in Emma's life for the past 5 years and the shelter was a mangy old dog named Max. When Max was out for his daily walk with his owner, Emma would share some of her food with him. Emma and the dog soon became fast friends, sharing hugs and licks. As the building was being engulfed in flames, Max and his owner were down the street a block away walking toward the shelter. Suddenly, Max begins to bark uncontrollably. Simultaneously, he begins to jump in the air, twisting and turning with all his strength to loose himself from the leash. "Max," the owner shouts, "what's wrong with you? Calm down." He desperately tries to hold on to Max, but he's not strong enough. Max breaks the leash and dashes off full speed toward the burning building. As everyone is screaming about Emma, Max dashes by them and into the burning inferno. Every person gasps in horror, watching the dog run into the building. "The dog ran into the building," one person shouts and points. "He'll never survive the smoke," another shouts. The owner is horrified as he falls to his knees, crawling toward the building. The shelter people grab him, trying to restrain and console him. "He went in after Emma," several of the townspeople shout. The owner begins to weep uncontrollably. "Look, there he is. It's the dog, and he's dragging Emma out by the collar." Both Max and Emma are on fire, but Max still has the strength to drag her out of the burning building. The people throw water on both Max and Emma. The dog falls to the earth, crying for help, and his owner catches him. Several men jerk off their shirts and wet them with water and place them around the simmering bodies of Emma and the heroic canine. She's still alive. I can feel her pulse, someone shouts. Someone call the doctor, another shouts. Max is a hero, another shouts. The crowd begins to chant, Max, Max, Max the hero. 3 cheers for Max, our hero, another person shouts. When no one was brave enough to enter the building, a dog outdid us all, still another shouts. While the canine cries from his burns, he's able to hear the people cheering his name and begins to wag his tail. Look, the owner shouts, he can hear you, see? He's wagging his tail. Once again, cheers and shouts of joy crescendo for Max the hero. However, the people must slowly back away from the building as the flames fill the sky and all hope to save the building is lost. Emma spends the next month in the hospital. She struggles for her life, but over time gains strength. But she has no recollection of what happened because she blacked out. One day, her nurse began to tell her of her miraculous survival. You were saved by a miracle, the nurse excitedly begins to share with Emma. I don't believe in miracles. Emma stops the nurse in her tracks. At first, the nurse is stunned to hear Emma's unbelief, but then quickly recovers to answer back. Well, you ought to begin to believe in them, the nurse retorts. It was your friend Max that saved your life. The nurse responds with frustration in her voice. It was amazing. He came dashing out of nowhere, and when no human would dare enter that burning building for fear of life and limb, Max the dog charged in unafraid and dragged you out. To be perfectly honest, it seems like you ought to be a bit more grateful. Emma tried to sit up, hearing the news about Max, but the nurse pushed her back down. No, Emma, the nurse responds, you can't sit up right now. You are still very weak. Another week passes before Emma begins to walk around the hospital unassisted. Nurse Emma declares, do you know where Max and his owner live? I really would like to thank Max. Can you have him come and visit me? Because of her physical and mental condition, no one told Emma about the end of the miracle story. It was agreed that she needed to gain more strength to handle the final truth. Another week passes, and finally the day arrives when the doctors allow Emma to learn about Max. After her daily walk around the hospital floor, her nurse pulls up 2 chairs, they sit down, and she holds Emma's hands. Easily noticing the change in her nurse's countenance, Emma asks, what's wrong? Is everything okay? Emma, the nurse retorts, Max is a hero. He is the bravest dog I have ever known. What happened? Emma interrupts. Is Max okay? The nurse pauses, then comes straight out. Emma, after Max saved your life, he was not able to recover from his burn wounds and he died 2 days later. Emma leans back in her chair, buries her head in her hands, and bursts into tears. Suddenly, after a few moments, she lifts her head and fists to heaven. God, you've done it to me again, Emma shouts, shaking her fist at the ceiling. The only things in life that have meant anything to me, you have stolen. The nurse stands up, steps over, and hugs Emma, trying to console her. Emma, the nurse quickly interrupts. Please don't talk like that. You have to understand, when no person would enter that burning building, Max did. He saved your life. He didn't just save your life. He showed the greatest love. Remember, God says greater love has no one than this, that someone laid down his life for his friends. He was your friend, Emma. And he was the one who gave his life that you might live. I don't want to live, Emma shouts. I want to die. You just don't know. You can never understand. Several of the other nurses come running in to help. Shaking her head, I don't want to live. I want to see Max, Emma shouts again as she begins to scream and cry uncontrollably. The nurses hug her and pat her, attempting to calm her down. Another nurse comes in and gives her a sedative so she can sleep. Emma sleeps for the next 24 hours straight. Finally, the nurses wake her needing to inform her of the next steps forward. Emma, we have something to tell you, her nurse says. We have not been able to control your burn wounds. We need to send you to Brussels, Belgium, where there is a hospital that specializes in burn control. They will help you there. Just let me die, Emma says, discouraged. I don't want to go to Brussels. Now, Emma, her nurse retorts, you simply cannot talk like that. We've already made arrangements. You will be leaving in the next 60 minutes. Emma offers no response, too weak to resist. She drops her chin on her chest in total despair. Because Emma's state of mind is of great concern, her nurse decides to risk losing her own job to accompany Emma to Brussels. Later on that day, together they board a train to make the 13-hour, 671-mile trip to Belgium. After settling in the Brussels Burn Specialty Unit, Emma spends another month in the hospital with her Spielberg nurse faithfully by her side 24 hours a day. Why are you doing this? Emma says while turning to look at her nurse. And why are you sacrificing yourself for me? 2 reasons, the nurse cheerfully responds. First, I care about you, and I'm afraid of what you will do to yourself if I leave you now. I have to make sure you're going to be okay. And second, Emma interrupts sarcastically. The nurse pauses, surprised by Emma's negative attitude, but quickly recovers herself. And what's even more important than the first, the nurse counters in a bright, positive tone. I want you to personally know that God loves you and cares for you, and I love you. There is no God, Emma whispers while turning her head back to the window. You could never understand what I've been through. Try me, the nurse again responds brightly. No, Emma responds abruptly. As the weeks pass, the time for her release from Brussels Burn Center rapidly approaches. Her nurse offers to help Emma travel back to Spielberg. Now that you are better, her nurse inquires, are you coming back home? You have no family or friends here. And what, pray tell, is in Spielberg for me? Emma's sarcastic attitude returns. My only friend Max is now dead, and I have no family in Spielberg either. As a matter of fact, I have no family anywhere. Where is your family? The nurse interrupts. Emma lifts her head and looks directly into the nurse's eyes. Let me tell you something. They were all taken from me. Emma speaks sharply through her pain. Then her countenance suddenly changes. But I want to at least thank you for all your help. You showed me your great love. No, the nurse quickly retorts. I have shown you God's great love. I'll be praying for you, Emma. And remember, before you call, he will answer. And while you are speaking, he will hear you. Goodbye, Emma, and I love you. He will hear, Emma sarcastically mutters, and Emma sarcastically mutters, and the nurse's words to herself while turning away. He will never hear me, because I will never call to him. Before leaving, the nurse hugs Emma and sticks her final $20 in Emma's hands and walks away. Watching her nurse walk away, Emma no longer believes she is capable of love, so she cannot form the words, I love you too. However, in spite of Emma's continued rejection, she did find her heart strangely warmed by her nurse's relentless positive words. There is something different about that young girl, Emma says to herself. Another 15 years pass, and Emma is now over 70 years old. She moves quite slowly now, hunched over as she walks. Her life's difficulties have left her body frail and vulnerable. She continues living in the Brussels shelter, surviving by caring for small children as a nanny. So often over the years, the bright eyes of the children, the loving arms wrapped around her frail neck, and their hopes and dreams stirred a glimmer of hope in Emma's heart. However, Whenever she returns to her shelter and lays on the cot at night, she still cries herself to sleep thinking about her husband and daughter murdered over 40 years ago. There are still times when nightmares awaken her and she screams out against God. The question of why is still alive. The question of why she is still alive while everyone else she knows and loves is dead continues to haunt her. Why am I still here? Emma's thoughts run wild. There is nothing on this earth for me. Emma then pauses and slowly lifts her crooked index finger, and points toward the ceiling. It is you who has cursed me with life, when all I desire is death. The nurse said many years ago, you would answer my prayers. Yet if you were real, you would hear my prayer and give me the death I so desperately desire. As Emma lay on her cot, the intensity of her thoughts began to wane, replaced by thoughts of the interview for her new nanny job the next morning. The interview will take place in a small town called Ghent on December 24th, 52 miles west of Brussels. I have little money left, Emma despairs in and out of sleep. God, if you are there, can you at least help me get this job? Emma sighs deeply. Here I go again, praying to the air. Emma drifts off into a deep sleep. On December 21st, in the same town of Ghent, a pastor and his wife prepare for Christmas Day service by decorating the sanctuary at their small church. They are one of only 3 churches in the entire town of about 2,000 people. Normally, they have about 40 people on Sunday mornings, but on Christmas mornings, the attendance swells to near 100. The pastor decides to put on an extra cone of paint on the front wall, while his wife decorates a Christmas tree to the front right of the sanctuary. Sister Anna, Nikolaj blurts out, calling his wife by her official church name. Are you almost done over there? It's about time to go home for the evening. We've been here all day and I'm exhausted. Yes, Pastor Nikolaj, Anna responds. I am ready. We can finish up everything tomorrow. The two finish their final touches, turn the lights out, lock the doors, and get in their old Volkswagen Beetle and make the 10-minute drive across town to their quaint country home. That night, a violent rainstorm rages over Ghent, dumping both rain and snow at various times. Nikolaj thinks nothing of it, as this is normal weather for this time of year in Belgium. Nikolaj and Anna decide not to finish decorating on December 22nd as planned, because some events arise among church members that require their immediate attention. They decide to finish the next day, December 23rd, instead. They're up bright and early on the morning of December 23rd, arriving at the church at 8 a.m. As Nikolaj walks into the sanctuary, he experiences a complete shock. The storm the night before knocked a large hole in the front sanctuary wall. Anna, come quickly, Nikolaj shouts. Anna runs in from the back of the sanctuary and gasps. Oh no, Nikolaj, Anna shouts. Christmas is less than 2 days away and we have a huge hole in the front of our sanctuary. And, Nikolaj laments, there is no time to plaster. It would take at least a week to fix such a hole. The two turn to each other, grab hands, fall to their knees in tears as they are forced to contemplate canceling the most important service of the year. What are we going to do, Nikolaj? Anna asks in great consternation. Do you think we should cancel the service? Nikolaj drops his head to his chest in utter frustration. I don't know. I just don't know what to do. We have people coming from not only our town, but the entire surrounding areas. He sighs deeply as tears roll slowly down his cheeks. Several minutes pass as the couple cries together. Suddenly, Nikolaj grabs his wife's shoulders and pushing her to arm's length. Anna, Nikolaj says through his tears, we can't just sit here and pout. We have to turn to our God. We can only seek God in these situations. We don't always know his immediate purposes, so we must trust that he is doing something in all this. They hug to warm themselves from the frigid air rushing through the hole, and then pray. The couple rises from their knees and agree to search through the church to find anything that can help them fill the hole in the wall. After an hour, they find some large pieces of cardboard, a couple of chalkboards, and begin taping the pieces of the chalk to the other side of the sanctuary hole. Of course, the unsightly chalkboard and cardboard can still be seen from the inside, but at least the cold air will be dramatically reduced. After makeshift patching the hole, the couple continues rummaging through the church, opening every door, looking in every cabinet and closet, and even climbing into the attic to possibly find anything else that might help. Nikolaj, Anna shouts in a muffled voice, I have found a large cloth in the attic. It just might fit over the hole. Anna runs into the sanctuary with the cloth, and both hold their breath as they place the cloth up to the hole. Yes, Anna shouts, pumping her fist in the air and dropping the cloth. It fits. Oh, glory to God. Incredibly, the cloth fit perfectly over the hole, covering it with at least 6 inches on each side. They take the cloth home that night to clean it. Where did you get this? Anna inquires, while she wets and brushes away the dust and dirt. I've never seen it before. I think I purchased it at something like some kind of sidewalk sale or something like that, Nikolaj retorts. I really don't remember. No, wait a minute. I do remember. Yes, I do. Nikolaj interrupts himself. I was in Berlin, Germany, after the war, and some street person exchanged it with me for food, or something like that. That was over 30 years ago, Anna. But as you can see, it's still in really good shape. It's really beautiful and colorful, too, Anna says. I can tell it was hand-woven. I wondered what it was used for. Anna's voice trails off. Who knows, Nikolaj responds. Probably a tablecloth or something like that. Nevertheless, I'm just so grateful to God because he certainly used it to save our service. The next morning, Christmas Eve, the couple arrives at 7 a.m. to finish all the small details in preparation for the Christmas Day service. After 3 hours, Nikolaj and Anna agree to take a break. They walk to the back of the sanctuary to observe their work from a distance. Large smiles break out over their faces as they see the beautiful cloth that now not only covers the hole, but fits perfectly with the other sanctuary decorations. Nikolaj, Anna spurts, with a smile in her voice. The cloth looks beautiful. It almost looks too good. You know, Nikolaj responds, I'm almost thinking about keeping it up for the remainder of the year. What do you think? Arm in arm, the couple turns, opens a sanctuary door leading into the vestibule. They walk slowly toward the offices passing by the front door. When they take a quick glance outside, they notice an elderly woman with her back to them, hunched over and shivering, trying to avoid the cold. I wonder who that is, Nikolaj says. Oh, she's probably waiting for the bus. But this elderly woman should not be standing in all that cold. Let's invite her in. Let's invite her inside to stay warm until her bus arrives. Anna opens the door and startles the woman. Please, ma'am, Anna pleads. Don't be afraid. Please come inside and wait for your bus. You're shivering from all the cold. Anna reaches for the old woman's arm to direct her into the church. Oh, no, ma'am, the woman responds. I could never impose. Here, here, we insist, Nikolaj interrupts. I am the pastor of this church, and we insist that you come in out of all this cold. You can stand right here by the door and look down the street so when your bus approaches, you can go out and catch it. Anna gently guides the elderly woman through the outside door into the vestibule. I have never been inside a church before, the woman responds, trembling and looking around. You are so kind to allow me to come in out of the cold. Well, Anna retorts, you are certainly most welcome to stay here as long as you need. We are very happy to have such a lovely person in our building. My name is Anna. And yours? You are so kind, the woman responds. I don't know how to repay you. My name is Emma, and I have an interview for a job here, near here, and I need only to take one more bus to get there. Welcome, Emma, Nikolaj interjects, looking at his watch. The next bus does not arrive for another 45 minutes. You have a long wait. Please sit in our sanctuary where you can rest your tired feet. We are decorating for our Christmas service tomorrow morning, and you can tell us what you think. Oh, you are more than kind. Thank you so much, Emma responds. Anna grabs Emma by the hand, and Nikolaj opens the vestibule door leading into the sanctuary. Emma looks down, trying not to trip over the threshold. When she looks up, she sees the cloth on the wall. Oh! Emma gasps, cupping her hands over her mouth. The trio stops in their tracks. What's wrong, Emma? Anna responds. Did we scare you? I'm so sorry. Emma pulls away from the couple and walks slowly down the center aisle, visibly shaken, continuing to stare at the cloth on the wall. Nikolaj and Anna walk beside her, grabbing her by the elbows. Emma, Anna interrupts, watching her look at the cloth. Do you like our cloth? It is beautiful, isn't it? Anna continues, a huge smile on her face. Where did you get that? Emma blurts out, pointing at the cloth, walking ever so slowly. Wow, my wife asked me the very same question last night, Nikolaj cautiously interjects. Well, I purchased it in Berlin over 30 years ago from a street person. Emma walks slowly, climbs the steps to the altar, finally arriving at the cloth. She begins gingerly running her hand along its soft fibers. Finally, she walks to the opposite side and lifts up the corner. Then she moves her head in closer to examine it further. Is there something you're looking for, Emma? Anna asks. Suddenly, Emma again cups her hands over her mouth, steps back, and bursts into uncontrollable tears. Nikolaj and Anna run over to console her. What's wrong, Emma? Nikolaj shouts. What's wrong? What did you see? After a few minutes, Emma gains some control and points to the corner of the cloth on the reverse side. Nikolaj lifts the corner of the cloth and moves his head in to take a closer look. Emma pulls away from Anna, who is hugging her, and points to two small initials. It looks like, I think I need my glasses, Anna, but I think the initials are, E.S., Emma interrupts. Emma bursts into tears again. After several minutes, Emma again gains some control. The initials are E.S. Emma can barely speak through her intense emotion, pausing again to gain control. The initials are E.S. The initials E.S. stand for Emma Steiner. Again, Emma bursts into tears. Emma Steiner, Anna says inquisitively. Who is she? Are you Emma Steiner? Emma shakes her head in the affirmative while bursting into tears again. Nikolaj runs over and gets a chair for her to sit down. Anna squeezes several Kleenex into her hand, and after several minutes, Emma is able to speak. My name is Emma Steiner, Emma says slowly, and I am from Spielberg, Austria. Spielberg, Austria, Nikolaj blurts out. What does this, Anna excitedly interrupts her husband. What does this cloth have to do with you, Emma? Please tell us. Emma again wipes away her tears, wipes her eyes and blows her nose, and gains enough composure to tell the short version of her life, beginning with the Nazi invasion, Ravensbrück concentration camp, the murder of her family. She even tells them the cloth was her Christmas present given to her by her husband just before they were taken by the Nazis 40 years ago. I have no words, Nikolaj responds in wonderment. It's absolutely amazing how something this precious to you is on the wall of our church. Listen, Emma, this is your cloth. We don't want to keep it. We want to return it to you. It's yours. However, can we ask of you one small favor? Can you please allow us to keep it on the wall until after our Christmas service tomorrow? Please, Emma, we beg you, Anna interjects. As you can see, it's covering a huge hole made by the storm at night. As a matter of fact, what's more, we want to invite you to our Christmas service tomorrow morning. Will you come as our guest? We would love to have you. And we will return your property as soon as the service is over. How about it, Emma? What do you say? Through her tears and sniffling, I don't know, Emma says. You have been so kind to me that I cannot take the cloth. You own it now. No, Nikolaj interrupts. We would never do such a thing. This is your cloth and the only memory you have of your family. We insist that you have it. Only please allow us to have it another 24 hours, and then you can take what is yours. Emma begins to cry again and shakes her head in approval. By this time, the bus has come and gone, and Emma is in no condition to do an interview. Anna persuades Emma to stay the night. But still, Emma gets little sleep. Christmas morning finally arrives. The service begins, and Emma is seated in the front row next to Anna on the left side of the sanctuary. Emma is so short, however, her head just barely protrudes over the back of the pew. The church is jammed with over 100 people. During the entire service, a small elderly man, 3/4 of the way back, several persons in, has been anxious, talking, moving around and pointing to the front. The ushers try to settle him on several occasions, while Nikolaj desperately tries to ignore him to keep from interrupting the service. When Nikolaj finally concludes the service with prayer, the elderly man jumps up, slides to his right, stepping on people's feet, excusing himself while trying to get to the aisle. Where he runs straight to Nikolaj, the ushers rush to intercept him. Where did you get that cloth? The old man shouts through the arms of his ushers. As the man continues to shout, Nikolaj steps down from the pulpit while the elderly man grabs him by the arms. The ushers pull his hands away as he continues to shout. Because he is elderly, he can barely be heard over the din of the people now exiting the church. Where did you get that cloth? He shouts again. Please, sir, Nikolaj interrupts. Calm down. Who are you, may I ask? Where did you get that cloth? The man shouts with greater intensity, shaking Nikolaj's arms, impatient for an answer. Nikolaj pauses as he grabs the man's arms. Sir, it belongs to her. Nikolaj points over to where Emma is seated. The old man jerks his head around to see where Nikolaj is pointing. By this time, Emma and Anna are both terrified, hugging each other as the scene unfolds. The elderly man continues to move his head back and forth, trying to see around the ushers who are in his direct line of sight. He adjusts his glasses and squints as the ushers continue to hold him. Please let me see, the old man says to the ushers as he tries to move the ushers out of his line of vision. Nikolaj reaches out and grabs the old man's arm. To restrain him, the old man turns back to Nikolaj. I beg you, sir, please let me go, the old man says, and then turns back, staring in the direction of Emma. Both the ushers and Nikolaj feel something is happening and loosen their grip. The elderly man finally gets a clear line of sight and stares directly at Emma, and she back at him. Anna tries to move her body in front of Emma to protect her, but Emma moves her head around Anna to retain a clear line of sight. Emma tightens her grip on Anna and speaks very softly, where only Anna can hear her. Mateo, is that you? Do you know this man And Anna inquires. Is that my Emma? Mateo says, struggling to pull away from the grasp of the final usher. Emma repeats herself, this time louder. Mateo, is that you? Mateo slowly steps closer. While still holding on tightly to Anna, Emma looks up into Anna's eyes and says, that looks like my Mateo. Emma then turns back toward the slowly approaching elderly man. Both Anna and Emma loosen their grip on one another, and Emma stands perfectly erect, staring at her husband, and he at her, who are now standing only 2 feet apart. Slowly they reach out to one another and burst into screaming and uncontrollable tears. By this time, the crowd is gathered around to see what's happening, and then, just as suddenly, from the far right aisle of the church, a woman is screaming, pushing her way through the sea of bodies. Please, please let me through, the woman shouts. The ushers reach out and grab her as she arrives at the front middle aisle, and she immediately bursts into tears. Mama, Papa, she screams. Emma and Mateo, still screaming and hugging and crying, suddenly hear their names and together turn toward the screeching female voice. The ushers loosen their grip, and the woman bolts toward Mateo and Emma, screaming. Unable to slow her momentum, Sophie slams into the couple, and all 3 tumble over backwards. Now all 3 are on the floor, on top of one another, screaming and crying. The crowd gasps in horror as the trio tumbles backwards. Little 90-pound Emma is on the bottom, holding on to Mateo with one hand and grabbing Sophie's face with the other. Who are you? Who are you? Emma cries. The ushers are trying valiantly to pull them up from the floor. The crowd is pushing in closer to see this incredible sight. Some are asking, who are they? While others are weeping uncontrollably. Please give them room, Nikolai shouts, holding his hands up. Please stand back and let them breathe. The ushers finally pull the trio back to their feet in the midst of total chaos. It's me, Mama, Sophie screams. It's Sophie. The trio are now hugging, screaming, and jumping. The mayhem continues another full 10 minutes before the 3 can gain any semblance of control. Anna and Nikolaj are both hugging and weeping, beholding the scene before them. Suddenly, Emma turns to Anna, wipes her tears, and blows her nose. Anna and Nikolaj, Emma sniffles. This is my family, Mateo and Sophie. Before she can finish, all 5 burst into tears. Now the entire crowd joins all of them hugging and weeping all together. After a few minutes pass, again Emma turns, this time to the crowd. Please excuse us, Emma continues. We were separated by the Holocaust and all assumed dead. We have not seen each other for over 40 years. The crowd gasped in horror and then burst into cheering and weeping simultaneously. Again, the trio burst into tears, screaming, crying, hugging, and jumping. After several more minutes pass, Sophie pushes back from hugging her parents with a huge smile on her face. Mama and Papa, Sophie smiles while stepping back. I almost forgot, but I have a surprise. Please, Sophie, Emma interrupts, enveloped by her husband's arms. I don't know if I can take any more surprises today. The crowd bursts into cheering and laughter again. Sophie then turns to the crowd behind her, motioning with her hand for someone to come forward. A man and 3 children squeeze through the sea of bodies as ushers help separate the people. Sophie turns back to her parents. Please, Mama and Papi, you have one more surprise. Sophie says, smiling through her tears. Papa, Mama, I want you to meet my family. Emma and Mateo gasp, hugging each other even tighter. Emma can barely see over Mateo's arms as she again bursts into tears. You have a family? Mateo blurts. He then turns to Emma. Emma? Does that mean we have grandchildren? Once again, the crowd burst into laughter and weeping. Sophie walks over and grabs Papa's face, looking him directly in the eyes. Yes, Papa, Sophie continues. And please don't make me cry until I introduce you to your newest family. Mateo turns to hug Emma, and both begin to weep all over again. Please, Papa and Mama, look and see. I'm not done yet, Sophie returns. Sophie returns to her introductions. The couple then turns back towards Sophie. Mama and Papa, this is Sebastian, my husband of over 25 years. We met and married in Vienna just after the war ended. Tears of joy continue to roll down Emma and Mateo's face as they see for the first time their new son-in-law. Papa and Mama, Sophie continues, look, I still have more to show you, Sophie says as she excitedly pulls her son forward. She moves her oldest child to her left side, hugging him with her left arm because he is taller than her. Papa and Mama, Sophie continues, this is my firstborn son. He is 14 years old, and his name is Mateo. Mateo's eyes widen as he hears his name called. Mateo turns back to Emma. Is he named after me? Mateo asks Emma. Yes, of course, Papa, Sophia replies. He's named after you. You are the best papa in the whole wide world, and this is your first grandchild. Emma reaches up with both hands to grab Mateo's face, who's closed his eyes, and they both burst into tears again. Mama and Papa, Sophie continues, pulling a female to the front of her, placing her hands on her shoulders. I want you to meet my second child. She's 10 years old, and her name is Emma. Emma squeezes her eyes shut, and buries her face in Mateo's chest as ushers reach out to hold them steady. Again, the crowd bursts into cheering. Sophie continues. And finally, Papa and Mama, Sophie says, this is our youngest son. Sophie stands behind him, placing her hands on his shoulders. He is 5 years old, and his name is Max. Upon hearing the name Max, Emma gasps and begins to faint. Mateo and ushers reaching out to hold her up. Sophie rushes over to console her. Mama, are you okay? Sophie says as she grabs her mother's arms. Are you happy? After gathering herself and holding tightly to Mateo, Emma responds, reaching out to grab her daughter's face. Someday I will tell you about my other Max. This is just too much, Emma continues, shaking her head. I must sit down. I feel really faint now. Everyone stands aside as Mateo and the ushers help Emma to the pew. Okay, everyone, Nikolaj interrupts. All the excitement is coming to an end. I think we can all return to our homes. I don't think we will ever again have another Christmas like this one. Everyone begins to file out of the church, wiping away their tears. Noses are blowing all over the place. Sophie drops to her knees directly in front of her parents, placing one hand on each of their legs. Where are you living? Sophie blurts. I want you to know that we will never be separated again. You are both coming to live with Sebastian and I because you are family. We have been able to make a lot of money. We own 2 homes, one in Vienna, Austria, and the other in Naples, Florida, in America. We were both vacationing through Europe when a friend invited us to this church for Christmas while we were in Brussels. This is also amazing, Mama and Papa. For decades, I told everyone my parents were murdered in the Holocaust. This is a miracle. God has brought us back together. What's even more amazing is that he used the cloth Papa gave to Mama for Christmas 40 years ago. I could barely sit through the service when I saw that cloth, it's a miracle, Sophie repeats herself, throwing her arms into the air. Nicholas then chimes in. This is called the providence of God. He loved your family so much that like an orchestra director, our God orchestrated this very moment. His arm around Emma, Mateo adds, Sophie, I became a Christian 10 years ago after being liberated from Treblinka in Poland. Incredibly, I have been living in Ghent for 30 years, and I have been delivering mail to make ends meet, and it's been so difficult. But this is the first time I've ever set foot in this church. Incredibly, I too was invited by a friend, and I reluctantly accepted his invitation. What if I had not come today? I would never have known my family was alive. All eyes turned to Emma, who has been silently listening. Emma Mateo asks, do you have anything to say? How did you come to be here this morning? Isn't God good to bring our family back together after all these years? Emma begins to cry. Her chin falls to her chest as she leans into Mayo for support. Emma, what's wrong? Mateo inquires. Mama, Sophie says, scooting over to position herself directly in front of her mother. Sophie touches her mother's chin and lifts her head to look directly into her eyes. Mama, Sophie repeats, please tell us what's wrong. Emma pauses as she looks into the eyes of her precious daughter. In the next few seconds, she begins to talk to herself while simultaneously looking into Sophie's eyes. Shall I tell Sophie and all these people who believe in God that I don't believe in God? Emma thinks to herself. Should I tell them I prayed for years while in several concentration camps, and when nothing happened, I grew to hate God? And what's worse, if I express these feelings, will they reject me and I lose my family again? I could never take that. On the other hand, if I tell them I hate God, how do I explain all that has happened to me in the last 2 days, let alone the last 2 hours? Sophie, Mateo, Pastor Nicolaj, Anna, Emma suddenly breaks her silence. I must tell you something. Emma pauses to move Sophie to seat beside her. Please, Emma, tell us, says Sophie interrupts. We want to hear. Please allow me to finish before you question me, Emma retorts, while those on the outside push in closer to hear her soft voice. When we were taken by the Nazis, Emma continues, I prayed for several years to be restored to my family. When I saw and heard nothing, I lost hope and began to hate God. Sophie and Mateo gasp and hug Emma. Please, Sophie, let me finish, Emma responds. For the last 40 years since my liberation from Ravensbrück, I have cried myself to sleep every single night, thinking about the death of my family. I could not help but think that God does not hear, that did not answer my prayer, because it does not exist. For the past 40 years, I have lived in a shelter. No, Mama, Sophie interrupts, throwing her head back. That will never happen again. Please, Sophie, Mama says, allow me to finish. I repeat, I lived in homeless shelters, both in Spielberg and Brussels, for over 40 years. I have only one change of clothing. I have experienced nothing but pain in this life. Repeatedly, I have begged God to let me die. I even told God the other day, He has given me life when all I ever wanted is death. If He existed, He ought to answer my prayer and let me die. But He wouldn't even let me die, so I hated Him all the more. But as I now sit here with my restored family, Emma continues, and I look back on my life, I vividly remember having been saved from sure death at least 6 times, excluding the Holocaust. Can you all tell me those near-death experiences were all in God's plan to bring me to this very moment in life? Can you? When I lived as a nanny, the bright eyes of the children, their hugs and kisses, their stories of their hopes and dreams I found gave me a smile and a glimmer of hope. Can you all tell me those little children were all part of God's doing to bring me to this very moment in my life? Can you? When a stranger allowed me to make friends with his dog, Max, who later pulled me from a burning building after I blacked out and I lived when he died, can you all tell me that experience was God bringing me to this very moment in my life? Can you? When the nurses who cared for my burn wounds in Spielberg, and when the nurse who cared for my burn wounds in Spielberg for an entire month and then left her job to accompany and care for me in Brussels for yet another entire month, and it was that same nurse who later told me God loves me and wants to answer my prayer. Can you all tell me her kindness, in spite of my rejecting her and her God, was in fact God bringing me to this very moment in my life? Can you? When Pastor Nicolaj and Anna just happened to have a storm knock a hole in their sanctuary wall, and they just happened to cover the hole with a cloth purchased from someone in the streets of Berlin 30 years ago, and which I just happened to be standing in the cold outside of this one church containing that one and only cloth on the wall given to me 40 years ago, and just happened to invite me in to warm up, which allowed me to just happen to see that one and only cloth, which allowed me just to happen to be invited back to their Christmas morning service when I have never been in a church before in my life, in a town I've never heard of. Can you all tell me that all that coincidence was God bringing me to this very moment in my life? Can you all tell me that my daughter and my husband, who were supposed to be dead, just happened to be in the same small church in this little town to see that very same cloth given me 40 years ago for Christmas, when all of this happened to come, when all of us just happened to come from different countries of the world? Can any of you tell me that this was God bringing me to this very moment in my life? Can you? Can anyone here tell me that all these things happened to answer my prayer 40 years later in spite of me telling God I hated him? Can you? I know I told you to let me finish, so now I'm finished. Emma lifts her head, crooked finger, and points toward everyone around her. So now I need anybody here to tell me whether all that is climaxed here in the last 2 hours, not just in my life, but in the lives of everyone now present, that all these things happen to bring us to this very moment. Can you? Everyone pauses, wipes tears from their eyes, looks around at each other, then turns back to Emma, and then with one voice, everyone simultaneously answers, yes. The scene immediately reverts back to heaven. The three angels are standing on the floor of a huge theater-type arena. Every seat is filled with a mixture of angels and saints as far as the eye can see. In front of the arena is a huge screen playing the entire scene of Emma's speech. When the three angels in the special seats on the floor, when the three angels sit in special seats on the floor, where they are all locked arm in arm, everyone is on the edge of their seats, riveted with anticipation, hanging on every one of Emma's words. When the humans in unison all answer yes, the entire arena erupts with a sound so loud it rivals the thunder of 10,000 storms. The three angels are running around in circles, screaming and hugging one another. The cheering continues for a solid 10 minutes. Suddenly, the shofar is blown. Everyone stands to attention in a total hush. Not a peep can be heard. Well done, special angels, Michael, Noam, Etan. Your faithfulness has paid off with another soul for my kingdom. The end. Praise the Lord. Hand out some cards to our children as Christmas presents. Thanks. If you just be seated for 2 more minutes. Thank you for coming today. I'm sorry for going a little bit over time. I didn't mean for it to last that long. I never know how long my stories are going to last. I just write them and I just finish. I never know how long they're going to last. But praise the Lord. Hopefully they helped you a little bit. God is a good God. He's a